Greetings. Today I will talk about a familiar eating utensil which was not so familiar in the early 17th century. Before getting started, I would encourage you to subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. If you like my videos, please hit the like button. For the more likes I get, the more YouTube will show it to other people, allowing me to grow the channel. I also encourage you to visit my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. There you will find sample chapters, podcasts, a slew of content, and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you can subscribe to it and receive email notifications of when I publish a new book or other content like this video and podcast. The podcast is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1665. Governor John Winthrop of Virginia turned many heads with his use of a, quote, split spoon, unquote, as he sat at his meal. During this time, Winthrop likely owned the only fork in North America, as the clergy considered split spoons evil. Opposed to the use of new eating utensils, they considered it the only thing worthy of touching God's food were fingers. Many considered them effeminate since Thomas Coryate had introduced them to England. Thomas Coryate lived from 1577 through 1617. He was an English teacher whose writing became popular in late Elizabeth in England. As a young man, he served as a court jester for Prince Henry, the oldest son of King James I. In 1608, Coryate left for a tour of Europe. During this journey, he traveled through France, Italy, Venice, Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands. Many feel it was this trip that fostered the tradition of the Grand Tour that many young men of the upper classes later on took. He walked during almost half of this trip and returned to England in October 1608. It was in Italy that he saw people using the table fork, so he brought some home to England. His attempts to introduce it brought him mockery and the name versifier. They called him the fork bearer, a name meant to ridicule him. During this time, people used their fingers and knives to eat. They used spoons for soups and stews, but these were mostly wooden spoons. Hosts did not provide cutlery for their guests. Male guests brought their own sheathed knives to a meal. Etiquette called for them to cut their food with their own knife. Since ladies did not carry knives, the men would cut their food for them. Diners would then eat it with their fingers or spear it with the knife. Cutlery makers began making table knives with the personal knives use declined. France and Italy were the first to begin using forks, though their use was slow to catch on. As it did, knives were no longer necessary to spear food, and cutlery makers started making knives with blunt tips. These proved useless to the English to spear food, so they began using their spoons to hold the food on the new blunted knives. The fork seemed a reasonable alternative and slowly gained in popularity. John Winthrop first used his fork, on June 25th, 1630, or the split spoon as people first called them. Many still considered them a novelty. Many felt they were the work of the devil, but their use spread and is now part of everyday dining experience. This episode is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1664, available at the website www.mossyfeetbooks.com. The book is the first book in the 6-volume Timeline of United States History series. Discover some of the famous and almost forgotten historic stories of America. The story begins with the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215 and the beginnings of the concept of limited government, and ends, for now, with the beginning of the American Revolution in 1775. The articles in the book have much more detail, as well as articles not included in the podcast series. You can find my books locally at the Rome River Marketplace in downtown Batesville, Indiana. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you for listening.